Hello, everybody. I have a question. Am I crazy for doing street photos with a 780 to 300 telephoto zoom lens? I'll let you be the judge. Take a look at these photos, and we'll talk again in about 5 minutes. See you then. Hello again, everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts on these photos and also if you've ever tried using a telephoto lens for street photography. But before we get to that conversation and some additional thoughts I have on this, I wanted to share a bit about the sponsor for today's video, which is me. And that is my photography coaching service I offer. And the goal of that service, what it's all about, is helping you create the photos you want. So we can talk about camera settings, we can talk about exposure, we can talk about composition, we can talk about gear, we can do photo critiques, we can talk about Lightroom and other software. So all those things that go into making up our photography lives, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're not finding the answers in YouTube University, I hope I can offer a solution for you. So I'm going to leave a QR code here as well as a link in the description below where you can click and find out some more information. The short version is there's a 30-minute free first session which you can book at that link and schedule that. And I'd love to begin the conversation. I look forward to getting to know you a little bit better and helping you on your photo journey. So speaking of photo journeys, let's return to today's photo journey, which is all about using this 70-300 or any telephoto zoom lens for street photography. So for me, I really like the 70-300 from Fujinon. It's relatively small and light, and it's almost always in my camera bag. I've used it in some previous street photo videos in situations where, I just physically can't get close to the subject. Construction workers up on high rises or things that are very far, far away that I just can't get to often with a regular type of lens. So that brings me to some of the advantages and disadvantages of using this type of lens for street photography. So first, let's talk about the advantages. I can think of three of them. The first advantage is the reach. 70-300 millimeters gives you a lot of reach to get closer to your subject without physically being closer. And what that means, especially with street photography, those moments, at least as far as I've noticed, most of them happen very brief duration. There may be 5, 10, 20 seconds. So sometimes the thing is happening and you can't get physically close, and then it's just lost in everything else. So the long reach of this type of lens will allow you to get that type of photo that you might not get otherwise. I would say over half of the photos that were in this video were maybe the event happened for 10 seconds. Literally, I would look down and check the photo, look up, and it was gone. So having that reach that I can get the photo was really, really helpful. The second advantage, I think, is minimalism. When you're framing with telephoto, you're reducing what's in the frame, so you have less around your subject. So what that does is it simplifies things. It makes it, in some ways, at least for me, an easier composition to create because I'm not trying to balance all the other elements in the frame and remove distractions. I tend to visualize photos that way. I like that kind of look, that almost cinematic compression you get with a telephoto lens of the background and foreground elements. And then the third advantage I think I really like about using a telephoto lens for street photography is you get details and less specifics. Here's what I mean by that. So you get the details because you're closer and you can see things that you couldn't see from street level maybe, or from a longer distance. But what happens related to the second thing, the minimalism, as you reduce the other elements and the context around your subject, you make it less specific. It becomes more generic, less, maybe even more symbolic than specific to a time and place, a location. It's a person doing something in a space that is maybe more relatable because it's not necessarily look like Bellevue, Washington, Seattle, Washington, London, England, Paris, France. It's just a smaller subset of that whole larger scene. So I kind of like that. I like symbolic photos. I like photos that are open to interpretation and less reliant on the specific context to be successful. So I enjoy seeing this way. So let's move on to some of the disadvantages, the reality of using this kind of lens, this kind of lens when you're doing street photography. The first is it's larger, it's heavier. It's larger and heavier than my 16 to 80, which is my kind of go-to for street photography. And obviously, it's also larger and heavier than a prime lens. So that's just the reality. There's, like most things in life, there's trade-offs. So you get the extra reach, but you have less space in your bag and more on your shoulder. So that's the reality. The second disadvantage I encountered using this lens is its size gets you noticed more. So when I have this lens on my camera, especially if I'm out here, you stand out. It's a lot larger than a 50 millimeter that only sticks out that far. So you tend to get noticed, but since I'm farther away from subjects, yeah, I feel less of an issue with that in some ways, but maybe that is something else to consider as well. You're not as engaged in your subject, because you are farther away, both not to kind of interrupt the scene as well as to bother people. So again, trade-offs. And then the third disadvantage is if you're not used to seeing at telephoto focal lengths, if you're used to 35 millimeters, 24 millimeters, 50 millimeters as your most narrow focal length, this is going to be different. It's a different way of seeing the world. It's a different way of composing photos and framing things, of aligning and noticing things. But I like it. It's a way I'm used to seeing. But it does take some adjustment if you've never done it. So I hope you found that a little bit helpful. And I hope if you have a telephoto zoom lens and you like street photography or any photography, that you give it a try. Just leave that as your only lens on your camera and go out and see how it works for you. I would love to hear your comments, hear your thoughts and suggestions and experiences of using this type of lens and what you thought of these photos in general. So please leave that in the comments below. If you'd like to see all of the photos from this session in Bellevue, there's also a link to the Flickr page where those photos live, and I'd like to have you take a look at those as well. What else would I like to have you do? While I'm asking you for things, if you go ahead and click the thumbs up button, that would be greatly appreciated. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, the subscribe button will help you do that. So there you go. Another trip to Bellevue, doing something a little different with the telephoto zoom lens. And I had a great time, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. So until I see you in the next video, I hope you stay safe and stay well and have fun creating photos. Until I see you again, bye for now.